Hey there, everyone. This is Omar, and this is another edition of Meet the Geek. Today, I am joined by John Garcia. You might know him by the membership manager at Geekdom, but today there's going to be a lot more to learn about him. So, what's going on, John? How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Omar?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well. I'm excited to get to know you a little bit more. So, let's start with the first question. Who are you?
Yeah, as you said, I'm John Garcia. Some people know me as John Ryan Garcia. Some people know me as JG. Some people know me as JRG. But yeah, I'm a Geekdom staff, employee, membership manager, marketing manager, a little bit of everything. And yeah, I'm sure I've run into a lot of people that are going to watch this at Geekdom, but ultimately just I try to be a creative person and a helpful person, and yeah, happy to be here.
Cool, man. So, in those positions that you listed earlier, what do you do in them? So, what does it mean to be a membership manager at Geekdom? What does it mean to be a content creator?
Yeah, so when I first started working at Geekdom, I started off as a membership manager, which is really an account manager. It was a member experience person, right? I would give the tours, I would meet all the new members and members that have been there for a while, and ultimately at the end of the day, I was considered as and I would consider myself a facilitator of connections. So people would come in and say, hey, I need help with this, or I want to meet someone that does XYZ. And I would introduce them, I would get them plugged into the community. And so yeah, that's kind of what I did for a little while. And then I've always been passionate about visual art, whether it's video or filmmaking or photography. And I try to incorporate that into my everyday. So I would be the guy walking around Geekdom and downtown with my camera taking photos, and that kind of evolved into a content creation role, like unofficially with Geekdom. And yeah, it's been 4 years, going on 5 years that I've been with Geekdom, and yes, still doing the same stuff, still meeting new members, helping people along the way, and trying to introduce people and do what I can for the community. So that's me.
That's awesome, man. I mean, that's a really key thing at Geekdom, because it is one thing to be a part of it and to show up, but it's another thing to say, hey, I'm looking for help in this way, or I'm looking for somebody who does XYZ. And to have somebody to facilitate that warm transfer, if you will, from one area to another, that's really helpful. That really helps people get connected and find the resources that they're looking for. So it's definitely an important role at Geekdom.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I hope so. I do what I can. I think like you hit it, right on the nail. Is it's kind of tough, with any situation going in, and like I like, especially a new community. Like, I'm a new member of this community. I don't know if I should just go up to people and just like, hey,
yeah,
what are you working on? What do you do? And I try to make that a little bit easier for people. And some people are great. They can come in and do that on their own. But I want to make sure that there's the people that don't know where to start get
right.
that warm transfer, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, because some people aren't always so extroverted, right? I'm in a collaborative co-working space, but I'm not sure how I should introduce myself, or I'm not really sure
Yeah.
how I should talk to people. Some people do struggle with that. I struggle with that sometimes. If I'm in a completely new place, I don't know how to talk to anybody. I might come off as super awkward, and that's just because I'm also super awkward. That's just the way I am. So this question, I think you answered a little bit earlier, but let's kind of go deeper into kind of the why. So why did you become a Geekdom member, or in this case, an employee of Geekdom? What was kind of that driving force that led you towards Geekdom?
Yeah, it's a long story, but I'll keep it short for the sake of time. I was working at Apple, and before then, never had any experience with tech. I mean, I liked new tech and liked hearing about it, but I wasn't a techie, right? So, I started working at Apple and kind of seeing all this cool stuff happening with new products and new technology, and I started to become passionate about it. And through that experience, I started working with businesses and how they could utilize Apple's products and technology to help better their operations. And as a salesman, I would always, try to find the best solutions. And through that, and through my experience at Apple, I fell in love with just, finding creative and innovative ways to solve problems, and for business owners to use that, use the technology. So working there for 3.5 years, I made connections, right? And then
Right.
it turned out that one of my managers ended up going to work at Geekdom in a leadership role. And I ended up being recruited a short time later. And, I didn't want to leave Apple at first. And actually, I talked to my family, I talked to my father and was like, hey, like someone wants me to go and work at this place called Geekdom. I don't know if I should leave Apple. It's a huge company. There's security, there's opportunities. And honestly, my pops was like, yeah, don't leave Apple. You shouldn't. But there was something kind of calling me, he was very honest. And a lot of people I talked to were like, yeah, you don't need to leave Apple. You're fine. But when I went and visited Geekdom, I got the tour, and as soon as I walked in, there was that energy, and I still talk about it to this day. It's a little different in these times, but when I walked in 2016, it was like, there's something going on here. All I heard about Geekdom was like Postmates is there, and there's like maybe some startups. I didn't really know much, but when I went there and experienced it for myself, it changed everything. So yeah, I ended up joining the team, and but I always kind of consider myself a member as well, right? So like I work for Geekdom, but I look at it more as like I'm a part of the community just as much as everybody else, because I'm constantly trying to learn and develop and ask questions, and I do what I can to be a member and an employee of Geekdom, and it's been going on 5 years, and I haven't left, and it's been awesome, and I enjoy being around.
That's really cool. And it's so funny too, because you and I both worked at Apple before we went to Geekdom. And I was at Apple from I think 2011, 2012, something like that. I think it was before your time. But David Garcia was one of the managers that I had met at La Cantera. I was working at North Star. Were you at La Cantera or North Star?
I was at North Star.
Your boots all the way.
Yeah, for sure.
That store was wild, man. Like I kept hearing that store was the busiest store in the entire region for I think in that region also included like Austin as well. So Austin has 3 stores, something like that.
Yeah, it was the market's called we would refer to it as Austintonio.
Yeah.
You have the stores in Austin, and you have the stores in San Antonio, and North Star just so happens to be the southernmost Apple store in the nation.
That's wild.
It's just, very close to Mexico. We're also located right next to the international airport. So
yep.
Tons of traffic. When someone lands in San Antonio and their phone's not working, or they want to go buy a new device, they would go there. So from what I've heard, I have a lot of coworkers to this day and colleagues that worked at La Cantera. They were able to take their time and take care of their customers. Where at North Star, we had to find a way to be super helpful and answer questions and meet our numbers. But at the same time, we have 17 other people waiting to be helped. So North Star was crazy.
Yeah, it certainly was. Did you use are you bilingual? Are you able to speak English in another language?
I only speak English. I know a little bit of Spanish, and when I say a little bit, I mean enough to order a beer and what I want to eat, which I'm the only one in my family that doesn't know Spanish. And so it's been tough, but at a certain point I was like, man, I really need to learn. And I think I learned that at an early age too, because my grandparents, specifically my grandfather and my father's side, really only spoke Spanish. And I really wish that I was able to kind of bond with him and, talk with him and learn the stories more. But that's a whole other thing. I really wish I learned Spanish. If I knew Spanish at Apple working at North Star, I would have been, able to help a lot more people. But I also think that there's people that knew Spanish that just said they didn't know. So they didn't have to, we need a Spanish speaker over here.
Yeah. I remember there was a guy that did that a lot at North Star. It was really funny. But anyway, not to make this like the Apple podcast,
No, it's all good.
or this isn't even a podcast. It's just a little show.
It's
But
kind of a podcast.
yeah, it's there's a podcasty feel to this, definitely. So we talked about why you became a member. And I want to ask you, what is the value that you've gotten from being a part of Geekdom as a member as well as a member of the staff?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, being inspired every day. And I'm just going to say this right now. Like, I don't want people to take this as disingenuous, or like, I'm just saying these things because I work for Geekdom. It's the truth, and I truly feel it. It's the people that I meet every day. It's the people that are like, chasing their dreams.
Yeah.
And that's the value. I think it's the community. There's a lot, cool, I can go to Geekdom and have like free Wi-Fi. I can get a conference room and meet with clients, and I have this space downtown where I can work. That's all great, but it's really the community, and I think that's what sets us apart from other spaces just like Geekdom. Like places that you go to co-work or to have an office space. I think Geekdom has just a community of people that you can rely on, that you can ask questions with. And I've learned so much just by going up to someone and being like, hey, I heard you do SEO. I have no idea what that is. Like, and people have always been super helpful. And I think that's the value, is just being able to kind of ask those questions. And, now with COVID, it's kind of tough, but I feel like there's still that, sense of community through the Slack channels and, things like that. But I mean, people are starting to come back into the space, and we're starting to feel that again. But that's really it. I've made so many friends, so many connections. And that's the biggest thing for me, is just meeting a new person that can inspire me. Like, seeing people do everything they can to make sure that they succeed really makes me want to succeed too, so
Yes.
that's huge.
Yeah, that's the energy that David Jones. I keep mentioning David Jones, and I haven't interviewed him yet, but he's always in my mind whenever I'm thinking about Geekdom, right? Because he's so he's kind of like a cornerstone of the community there. But he's always kind of described Geekdom as having having an energy that you just don't really find anywhere else. And I think you kind of described that in different words, which is it's feeling inspired by other people who are inspired. It's that that sort of that wave effect that kind of goes through, because when someone's talking about something that they're passionate about, like a particular problem that they're passionate about. And I want to ask you what kind of problems that you kind of keep you up at night. But just kind of reiterate what you're saying here. And it's that's the thing that kind of flows throughout the community, and people are sharing that and inspiring each other. So I think you're absolutely right.
For sure. And also shout out David Jones.
Yeah.
Long live the Geek 2019.
Yeah.
He's always helpful, always giving back, and just a great human. So shout out.
Yeah, he's wonderful. I need to interview him soon. I think that will be a fun one. He might just give me like really brief answers. He's like, "Who are you?" "I'm David Jones." Like, that's it.
I can see that for sure.
Yeah, that'll be funny. All right, so for you, what sort of problems kind of keep you up at night? What are some things that you feel like you want to help solve? And things that you're passionate about, like what sort of problems that you want to go through and see the solution for?
Yeah, it's a great question. Especially now, like there's a lot that keeps me up at night, just with like everything happening in the world. But specifically, as it relates to Geekdom, I heard. Actually, let me start off by saying this. When I left Geekdom for a bit to work with Geekdom Media and to do podcasts and some stuff like that, and I loved it. It was great, but there was something calling me back to Geekdom proper. Like I kind of want to go back and see like how, because one, it's the stories that you see every day. Yeah. So I wanted to be a part of that again. Like we're doing storytelling, but I want to like be a part of it as it happens. So I came back to Geekdom. And I was there for a week with all these great things happening, but like this COVID-19 coronavirus kind of looming in the background. And I came back, was like ready to tackle a lot of these, storytelling stuff. I wanted to help with marketing. I wanted to like help improve. And then Geekdom shut down a week later. So I was literally there for a week, and then it shut down. So I mean, that was tough for sure.
Yeah,
But you
definitely.
know, the community strong, and what we're doing, I think we're doing some great things. So we were able to kind of navigate through that. Um, but I heard, you know, from a lot of different people and a lot of different, you know, co-working spaces and communities of like, co-working's dead. It's never, you know, things are never going to be the same. How do you operate in a co-working space during COVID? And like that kind of stuff, like really scared me, you know, and I didn't want to lose the community and the friends and the connections that I had. And I know there's, you know, hundreds of other people that felt the same way. And I really took that on as like an issue that I, you know, wanted to solve with the team that I work with, that I have the pleasure of working with. And so it's constantly innovating, and it seems like things are changing every week, every day. And so that I think that's really what it is like, how can we stay here, and me in my role, how can I continue to be helpful? How can I continue to connect people and connect with people in a time where it's not even like acceptable to give a high five, you know, like, or
Yeah.
a handshake, you know, it's all very, very weird. And like I said, it's ever changing, and it's changing at a fast pace. But um those are the things that I think about is how do I continue to be a resource, and how can Geekdom continue to be here for the folks that want it and that need it and that want this community. um those are the things, you know. And it's the day people thrive in these types of situations. People are like, you know, at least with me, it's like, let's use this kind of crazy and scary situation to like create a place and a space for people to make something great out of a not great situation. And it's a big task, but I'm up for it. And but that's what kind of keeps me up at night, I guess. I try not to stress too much. I try to find my ways to kind of like disconnect and, you know, make sure that it's not something that I'm thinking about constantly. But to be honest with you, I think about it a lot. But it's good. It's, I mean, if anything, like I said, it's good. It's a good time to innovate and be helpful. So
Yeah.
hopefully that answers your question. That may have been a whole lot of jibber jabber.
No, that definitely does answer the question. And I do appreciate you sharing all that, because, you know, sometimes it's difficult to talk about the things that we're not just always thinking about, but we are, I think everybody has a struggle, right? Whether that might be an internal struggle or some sort of external struggle. There's something that we just keep thinking about, something that there's a problem or there's a situation, and we just want to be able to help solve that.
Yeah,
And I think it's okay. We're not supposed to have all the answers, but we come to an answer over time, and we work together to sort of develop a better answer, a new answer. I don't think there's ever going to be a right answer to anything, but it's going to be a good fit for somebody. It's going to be helpful to someone. And so as long as we keep pursuing, an answer to a particular problem that we might have, that might help somebody. So if anything, it helps you, right?
hmm
It keeps your mind occupied. It's something that you're passionate about. It makes you happy. Like, all that in and of itself is good. And so
for sure.
that sort of passion also can inspire someone else as well. So,
Yeah,
it's a really good sort of, not sort of necessarily like an idea factor that makes everyone feel good. That just seems too like new agey and weird and industrial at the same time. But
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. I just think it's good. That's it.
yeah. No, I feel you, man. I'm picking up on the vibes that you're throwing out. I think that it now's like, kind of like I said before, it's a good time to kind of step back and, you know, reevaluate things and try to find those answers. And I think a big part of what Geekdom is, and like, you know, what we tell people is innovation. Like,
Yeah.
now's the time to innovate and like find ways to stay moving, to keep pushing forward, to keep, you know. And I think I'll taking it back a little bit to one of your previous questions. Like, I'm passionate about Geekdom, and the reason why I stick around, and one of the reasons why I joined, is because I want San Antonio to thrive.
Yeah.
You know, I got to the point in my last job that I didn't really have many opportunities here where my family is and where like the roots of my family are and like where I want to raise my family, I would have to leave. And I don't want to leave San Antonio. You know, I'm very passionate about making sure that people know that there's, you know, cool shit happening in San Antonio and a lot of really creative ideas and innovation. So I want to keep doing that and innovating and finding new ways to do those cool things.
Yeah, man. All right. So there's one last question I want to ask you, and this is what I usually call it's like the flash question, but it's not really a flash one. It's more like knew it was coming, and if you watch these videos, you already know it's coming. So flash it is. All right. So for you, if someone were to come into the space and they're like, you know, I keep hearing about be helpful, giving back to the community, what would be a way for somebody to give back to the Geekdom community in a productive way?
That's another really good question. And I think in a flashback a year from now, I would have an answer probably totally different now. But so I'll say what I would tell people is just supporting each other. And you can still do that. But supporting another Geekdom member is as easy as going to an event. And I would tell people would ask all the time, how do I give back? Like, what should I do? Like, there's this big thing. You're telling us to give back our time to the community. I don't know what to do. Again, it's as easy as just going and listening to someone talk, going to someone's event, going to someone's meetup, and just your presence is a big part of that. So that's one way. Nowadays, I think that knowledge sharing, knowledge transfer is huge, and it can all be done virtually and digitally, right? So like if you feel like you are proficient in a certain area or an subject matter expert in a certain industry, don't be afraid to share your knowledge. You know, I think that's the biggest thing is there's people that are asking on Slack or people that join the community that you can see, excuse me, that need help or that have questions or just don't know what the next step is. Don't be afraid to step up and be like, hey, you're not taking them under your wing per se, but like, hey, let's get through this together, you know?
Sure.
So I think that's huge. Like it doesn't need to be like a lot of people think like, oh, do I have to like I do websites? Does that mean I have to like build someone's website for free? Or like, you know, for me, it was like I did photography and I would take headshots for people. And even in my early days at Geekdom, it was like, do I take free headshots? And I did that for a while. And I think that was helpful. But even just sharing or like teaching someone how to do it themselves, like teaching someone to fish, if you will, just sharing the knowledge, even the experiences and the stories that you have, share them. Now is the perfect time. You know, I'm sitting here at my desk and we're talking, right? But like if we weren't doing this, I could easily be sitting here talking about my experience and about my story. And who knows, maybe that could, you know, inspire someone to do what it is that they want to do. I don't know. But I think share your story, talk to people, and just what you think that you're, you know, knowledgeable at, share it with the community. Because that, if anything, goes a really, really long way. And that at the end of the day, that draws that connection. It brings people together. So that's what I would recommend to people. If you walked into Geekdom or if you joined today, tomorrow, whatever it is, share the knowledge that you have with someone sitting next to you or someone that you met on Slack or whatever it is. That's huge. It's a very easy way to be helpful. And it's also a great way to get connected to the other people that are chasing their dreams too.
That is a fantastic answer. That's pretty cool, man. Thank you for sharing that. That was awesome.
For sure.
I keep thinking about, there was a moment where I joined somebody's event, and I think it was like not like a 3-day startup type thing, maybe a startup weekend type of presentation, and or startup accelerator presentation. I forget which one of it was, but they did a presentation on something about solar power and energy and providing like more metrics for commercial buildings to identify like, you know, where are the opportunities for making the place more efficient, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember I was asking technical questions, and Winslow, if you don't know Winslow, you should get to know Winslow. He was in the audience, and he turns around He said something very sarcastic, but it was also sincere at the same time. And he was like, he was something about like, these questions are just like really technical, but thank goodness you're here to ask them. And you know what?
Yeah,
like,
very true.
Yeah. And like after the presentation, like they came up to me and started asking me questions and wanting to, talk more about what they were doing and answer more of my more in-depth questions. And I think for them, that gave them a lot of hope. It gave them it made them feel appreciated that they were listened to. And I think
100%.
And I think your point about just going to an event, asking a question, paying attention, and making those connections, I think that helps people a lot, because I think it helps them feel like they're validated in what they're trying to do. And if they feel if they feel more confident in it, it's more likely they're going to be successful in whatever it is that they're trying to do, right? They're gonna keep pushing forward. There's less to discourage them. So yeah, I think you're right about what you had said about what's a way to give back to the community. It can be something as simple as answering a question or asking a question.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to kind of build on that a little bit and to give you a little bit of a shout out and some kudos.
Oh boy.
Like, we're doing a lot of these events virtually, and I would say you have a pretty big presence on our online platforms, like on Slack, right? You're really active on there, and it's awesome because, people see that, and it's good to have that communication. But when we do our virtual events, we did one specifically with one of our pre-accelerator companies, one of the companies that participated in our pre-accelerator called Evo Security. And
Evo.
Yeah, you're in the YouTube chat, and like I'm like a lot of the things I do are behind the scenes. I'm like checking the comments, I'm running the stream in the background, and just the questions you were asking were super valid. And I know for a fact that it brought value to that event. And not only that, when Michael is telling people about his company, it probably feels really good for him when people are asking those relevant questions, like, oh, someone's interested. So one, I appreciate that. And that's another way you can be helpful, is tune into the workshops. But also more than anything, someone else that I would like to give a shout out to is Iris Gonzalez, startup San Antonio.
Totally, yeah,
amazing,
100%, 100%.
110%.
Right.
She's amazing and very interested in what everyone's doing in the community. And to the same point, we did an online event, and she was in the comments and she was asking questions, and like she was one of the only people engaging, but they were very valid questions, and she was very interested. And I know for a fact that the person, pouring their heart out, right? They're like, this is what I've been working on. This is what I do. This is what I love.
Yeah.
And having someone ask you questions about that is like, it makes you feel really good. Yeah. And so that goes a long way too. So I appreciate you for doing that. I appreciate Iris for being awesome and doing that too. And I appreciate you making the time and putting this all together. It's been really fun.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for answering these questions and letting people learn a little bit more about you and the way you think about things, and what are some ways that they can help out more. So thank you, Ryan. I appreciate you being. I'm sorry, John Ryan Garcia.
There we go.
There he goes.
It's confusing. I have like 8 different names, so I don't blame you at all.
I have 7.
Panda is one of them for sure.
It's for sure, yeah. But yeah, man, thank you so much, and thank you all for watching. This has been this edition with John Ryan Garcia of Meet the Geek. Tune in next week when we'll have another geek that we'll be able to meet. That'll be fantastic. Don't know who it is yet, but we will find out.